gender equality cannot be totally overcome. But if you degender the notion about yin and yang, I mentioned that. The father is young, the son is yin. But when the son is in his 60s, the father in his 70s and 80s, the father becomes yin, become more receptive, the son becomes yang. The mother is always young towards the children. And husband and wife is division of labor. So one principle very early developed. Husband and wife should be equal. And then if you have ruler and minister, you have also employers, employees, and employees will be considered as yin. The employers will be yang if their positions change. So this is actually a contribution made by some brilliant Korean Confucian feminists. The term Confucian feminist is no longer totally arbitrary. The president of Yi-Hua University, by far the largest women university in the world, came for a visit and wanted to have a conversation with me. I thought she's going to criticize my position. She said, because I'm a Confucian feminist. So we exchanged quite a few ideas. Now the second one is scholarship. If you don't have scholarship, you don't know the classics, you're not a good interpreter, you're not creative in your interpretation, you're not able to use the 4 books, for example, or the 5 classics, not simply as historical phenomena, but relevant to the world today. That is absolutely critical for you to become a great Confucian interpreter or a Confucian thinker, a Confucian practitioner. In a curious way now, many most very popular and very influential classicists, or those people who are great in interpreting Confucian tradition, is no longer the monopoly of men. And the situation is going to continue, that's my prediction, continue. In one generation, the scholarship in Confucian studies will be dominated by women. And it has a number of reasons. One reason is, universal phenomena. In other words, humanities as a discipline eventually will be totally dominated by women, because overwhelming majority of men are not in humanities. And if you, I don't know the American situation or Harvard, I think probably true. If you go to Taiwan University, you teach history, literature, and philosophy. Philosophy is a bit different, but even philosophy, 2/3 of the classes will consist of women. And in some area like English literature, maybe 90%. Another thing very interesting, because examination system, Harvard can control, Harvard can tinker with this question about racial tension, racial balance, about gender balance, about how many slots would be reserved for alumni, for the children of the faculty member. Sometimes the children of faculty member fail to go into any university except Harvard. These are special considerations. Harvard also has a special consideration to find people who are actually not qualified to get into college, and try to see whether 4 years will make a difference. Now this is a very complex and to me a very humane and very important way of recruitment. But in China, when I say culture China, in Japan, in Korea, in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and many in China, it's examination, period, depending upon your score. You have many choices, sometimes 70 choices according to your score. And curiously, at 17, normally women students perform better because they're more careful and they don't make a lot of mistakes and so forth. So the percentage is changing very rapidly. When Princeton first accepted women, the overall score of women students is higher, maybe 5%. Harvard situation, I don't understand, but I know Radcliffe was a major challenge. But the problem is, if women are so successful in terms of general examination, going to college, and should we have affirmative action to protect male students? This is a major issue in Taiwan. If it reaches, right now it's maybe 45% to 55. If it reaches like 40 to 60, you really have to do something about it. Part of the reason is because sometimes the male students mature a little bit later. And often, this is, I think, it's totally accepted. That is more men will stay in scholarship for years to come. Women, by biological determination, sometimes get out of either the workforce or the scholarly area, and then will come back because the family, because children, and some other reasons. So, but this area, scholarship, is something that we need to look about Confucian scholarship. Then the question about praxis. Now, praxis in traditional society has something to do with the muscle power. Therefore, men, like hunters, like farming and so forth. Now, in America, for example, it's service sector, it's brain power, it's knowledge, it's wisdom. So the situation changed rather dramatically. I don't know if my prediction is correct, but my general sense is that in the area of core values, in the area of scholarship, and in the area of praxis, now men and women at least are equal. You have any questions about this? With a view to the future, this situation is going to be enhanced. Let me move to a related but more complex problem. That's the problem of globalization, its impact on the Confucian tradition, and to a certain extent, nobody thinks about that way, how the Confucian tradition can contribute to, or can contribute to the modernizing process, right now understood as globalization process. Cultural globalization is, unlike economic globalization, is very much shaped by cultural diversity. That's why I assigned this short essay by Peter Berger, entitled Many Globalizations. Originally, he was asked to do a general survey. He just assumed that globalization in the cultural sphere is just like in the economic, social, political sphere, that all societies eventually become the same. And so you could imagine America top of the list. European societies, the East Asian and other societies eventually were all like America. Now the more we think about it, the more we know it's not going to happen. At one point, Richard Rorty, I probably made a reference to that. It's rather amusing one. Before he visited China, he predicted that English, or the only language, would be the language for real communication, lingua franca, in a very ironic way. American English, especially American English. He said in 50 years, there's only one language that matters. After he visited China, he said maybe two. But in any case, few languages. Therefore, homogenization is unavoidable. Fast food, youth culture in particular, your way of listening to music, communicating with other people, your sense of your cultural identity, the term that is used time and time again, is not just crossing boundaries, but hybridity. Or use more open and older expression, it's museum without walls. Museums without walls. Your treasure is mine, and my treasure is yours. I can choose and pick. And some Chinese scholars, challenging my position on culture China, recently we discussed it over the weekend, and say Chineseness itself is essentializing. So we're going to explode it. I'm Chinese by by ethnic determination. From now on, I don't want to be called Chinese. I want to be identified as an American, as a Canadian, as an Australian, and I will write the languages. I don't want to be pigeonholed into this idea of being Chinese. Unfortunately, because the population base is huge, it's difficult to get out of this situation. So they use the word Sinophone. In other words, it's a linguistic. You use the language to express yourself. You even use English, but as Chinese, that English you use, like Ha Jing at Boston University, he says, I write in English, but still, it's an expression of my Chineseness. That's true with many other languages. As you know, America is noted for this as an immigrant society. For a while, the word diaspora, you know how the word diaspora is used?